Welcome back to the Peace Offering Kitchen. Today we are making an organ meatloaf. And so basically that means we are sneaking some organ meats into our meatloaf so that no one will be able to taste them. If you're lucky enough to have the brand Force of Nature, they do this for you. And so they have ground beef, beef liver, and beef heart already packaged. And this is the simplest way to do it. If you find something like this, you can generally get it sent to you because it comes frozen. And so I highly recommend this as a way to get the organ meats easily into your diet. So another thing that I do is saute a few vegetables. They will continue to cook in the meatloaf, but we want to make sure they're nice and soft before we put them in the meatloaf. I'm going to get a saute pan and a little bit of butter. So I will use not quite a half a stick of butter in this saute pan, and then start to cut up these vegetables. So this is all optional. You can make a meatloaf with just the meat, eggs, and breadcrumbs. But we started doing this for our children and just got so attached to the flavor. Each vegetable brings something different. You can also add beets to this if you have leftover cooked beets. These tomatoes will get soft quite easily, so we don't have to cut them into such small pieces. But for the other vegetables, I think I'll do one more tomato. I will cut them a little bit smaller. When you're cooking meatloaf, the dogs always come. All right, we have these tomatoes in here. I harvested a few leeks from the garden. Now, any onion will do. To be honest, I actually thought these were onions that I was pulling up and then realized they were leeks. And it's all going to be just fine. I am going to add this last one. All right, now for these carrots, I actually will cut them up a little bit smaller because they are a little bit tougher and you don't really want to feel a crunch so much in your meatloaf. So for these, I'll cut them in little cubes like that. So you just sort of want every piece to be about the same size so that it will cook evenly. You don't want one raw carrot next to one burned carrot. Also, surprise, these were yellow carrots when I pulled them up. You can use any color of carrot you want. This is another great recipe to use your short, weird carrots because it's all getting chopped up anyway. Once this is in the pan, we're just going to season it with a little salt and pepper. The salt adds flavor, but it also allows the onions to soften. Now I'm just going to take this over and saute it. So this has been preset to a high heat. So we're going to want this butter to melt, and then we'll fully get it incorporated, evenly coating all of the vegetables. And then let it sit, get translucent, and just slightly brown. The tomatoes are giving off a lot of water, but this is great because it will give the carrots something to cook in. So I'm just going to give it a stir so that it cooks evenly. I think this is probably about 2 more minutes. I'll just keep stirring it. This will allow the water to evaporate and give the onions a chance to caramelize. Everything's sort of releasing its fragrance right now. I'm also taking the time to sort of separate all of the onion layers or the leek layers. Cooking onions in this way without burning them releases the sweetness. All right, we're ready to take this over. We're going to allow this to cool before we incorporate it into the meatloaf. Now I'm going to make a sauce for the top just to give these vegetables a little bit longer to cool. So basically what I'm trying to do is make a mixture of ketchup and mustard, but I'm trying to make my own ketchup, so I steer clear of the red food dye. So ketchup's pretty easy to make. Start with a little bit of tomato paste. And honestly, this is another one of those intuitive ingredients where you should make it like you like it. My husband, for example, would like it really vinegary. My kids would rather me add a lot of sweetness to it. But basically, you add a little vinegar, a little bit of sweetness. In this case, I'm using maple syrup. You could also use honey. And then a little bit to flavor. So we have a little garlic, a little onion, and a little bit of nutmeg. Also salt and pepper. And now we'll mix this all together. Beautiful, deep red ketchup. And then add a little bit of mustard. And then we'll mix this up. And once we have assembled our meatloaf and put it in our pan, we'll spoon this over the top to make a nice glaze. All right. Now we're going to move on to our meatloaf. First, we're going to take 2 packages of this ground beef that has the organ meats already cut up in it. I'm so grateful for this brand, Force of Nature, because before this, I used to have to buy a whole liver and just use a tiny bit of it at a time and refreeze it. And this just makes it really, really easy for us to incorporate these into our diet. And now we're going to crack in 2 eggs. As often as you can, try to buy pasture-raised eggs from chickens that are not vegetarian fed. Okay, and then we'll also need to season this. Probably all of this salt. You need a lot of salt and pepper when making this much meatloaf. All right. And then we'll need a small amount of breadcrumbs. You have so many options here. You can use oatmeal, you can use rice, you can use literally shredded bread. I found these gluten-free panko breadcrumbs, which are so convenient. They're already chopped up here, and I love using them. So we'll just do a couple of handfuls of this breadcrumb. And then we will add our vegetables. Perfect. These are nice and cool. If you add hot vegetables to your meat, it's going to start cooking the meat instantly. And you want to wait and let the meat cook once it's in the oven. And now the best way to mix a meatloaf is by hand. So we're going to set this to the side and get in here with your hand and start smashing it together. You want to smash the egg yolk up right away as well. You want the seasoning of the salt and pepper to be evenly mixed throughout the meat and an even distribution of all the vegetables and breadcrumbs as well. So all of this is coming together, adding so much flavor and sort of a depth to it with slightly different textures. So once you think this is fully incorporated, we will put it into our loaf pan. So I'm just going to try to slide this guy in here. Perfect. All right, all that's left to do is glaze the top. So we're going to take this sauce that we made. I always encourage you to taste it, add more salt to it, add more sweetness, and make it be your favorite sauce or your children's favorite sauce. This will create a nice little crust. The sugars in the maple syrup will caramelize the top. All right. Now we are going to put this in an oven preheated to 350 degrees for 1 hour. Okay, there it is. You don't need to allow it to cool for very long because it's best served hot. So we'll just dive in right away, cutting a slice off of the end. There it is. Enjoy. Thanks for watching.